Okay, we have been working on multiplying and dividing monomials, and there's some specific rules that are helpful that you can remember. So the first one we're going to talk about is product of powers. So we've got powers, we've got exponents involved, and we're talking about product, which means we're talking about when they are multiplied. So when this is the case, to multiply powers with the same base, we simply add their exponents. So we've got lots of examples here and some important things to remember. Example 1 says 5 squared times 5. Well, this can be confusing sometimes because we've got the same base, but we only see one exponent. What we need to remember is when we have the number 5 all by itself, it does have an exponent. We just don't see it. When you don't see the exponent, what is the exponent? It is 1. So I would suggest whenever you have a base by itself to go ahead and write the exponent 1 in. That will be helpful. Then I can do 5 times 5, so I keep the base the same, and then I add the exponents, 2 plus 1, and that equals 3. Let's do one more example like that. I have 7 to the 6th power times 7. We need to remember that 7 by itself is actually 7 to the 1st power. So I'm going to have 7, and the power is going to be the 6 plus the 1, so 7 to the 7th power. So that is the basic, most basic way to multiply powers with the same base. All right, and the key in these examples is making sure that if a number does not appear to have an exponent, that you remember that it has the exponent of 1. Our second example is a similar thing, but now we're dealing with variables. All right, we have c to the 3rd power times c to the 5th power. You need to make sure you pay attention to whether they're asking you to solve a problem or simplify a problem. In this case, they want you to simplify. So we do have the same base, so we can keep the base as c. I'm going to add 3 plus 5 because of those are my exponents. That will equal 8. So my answer is c to the 8th power. All right, let's do one more example just like that. Here I have r to the 4th power times r to the 6th power. So my base is going to stay the same, which will be r. And then I'm going to do, I'm going to add, because I'm multiplying these bases, I'm going to add the exponents. So 4 plus 6 equals 10. And then I have r to the 10th power. So once again, we're dealing with the same concept. This time, we're having variables. All right, one more example for you, and this is where it gets a little bit trickier. If we look at example 3, and we're on page 24, now I've got negative 3x squared times 4x to the 5th. So right away I noticed something different, and now we're dealing with coefficients. We're dealing with coefficients. So my variables now have numbers in front of them. Well, an easy way to do that is to remember that when I have a coefficient, this is multiplication. So to make this a little bit easier, I can split this up, all right, because I can multiply in any order that I want. So I'm going to take my coefficients kind of over by themselves and multiply them together, negative 3 times 4, and then I'm going to take the variables with their exponents and put them beside each other, x to the 2nd power times x to the 5th power. And what that's going to help me to do is just visually be able to do this problem a little bit easier. Now, negative 3 times 4 equals negative 12. And then over here, we do the same thing we've always done. I've got the same base, and I'm going to add the powers because those bases are being multiplied. So 2 plus 5 equals 7. So I have x to the 7th power. And I can simply rewrite that as negative 12 x to the 7th power. All right, so once again, when your variables do have coefficients in front of them, separate it and multiply the coefficients together and make sure you put it all back together at the end. All right, one more, and then I'll let you start on the got it problems. All right, here we have negative 7x squared times 11x to the fourth. So we do have the same base. I'm going to rewrite this as negative 7 times 11 times x squared times x to the fourth. Well, I know that negative 7 times 11 is negative 77. I know that x and x, I've got the same base. It is being multiplied, so I can add the exponents, and that's going to give me x to the sixth power. Negative 77x to the sixth power. Okay? So, a couple things to remember. When you're multiplying bases that are the same, you can add the exponents. Remember that if you don't see the exponent is 1. And also, if your bases have a coefficient, you can multiply those coefficients together. Go ahead and start on the got it's at the bottom of page 24.